Hey, everybody. And as Brent Musburger would say if he were doing CBS, you are looking live at Allegiant Stadium, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, on the night of the 10th of August, 2020. And he would talk about how by this time it would normally have been something like, just a few days until, another week until the stadium played host to Garth Brooks. And then just a few days from that, UNLV Cal, which originally was supposed to be earlier in the month. But instead of all that, we have a facility that is still being worked on and is empty in the middle of a pandemic. But there's a bigger problem right now that exists and threatens the future of Las Vegas Stadium, now called Allegiant Stadium. And it has to do with this little kind of promise that was made, as I call it, to the Raiders organization in a way via the news. And it basically looks like this here. AEG sees no problem filling 46 events at Las Vegas Stadium. Now, folks, I've talked about this before if you're a regular viewer here, but I'm emphasizing it because I'm pointing to what I consider to be a very dire situation that is interconnected with a number of other promises that have been made post the emergence of this pandemic. This is not going to result into a move back to Oakland. So that's not what this is about. And not only that, it's contractually not even doable right now. But let me get to where I believe this is going to go and how to remedy that right now. AEG said straight up, as you can see, no problem filling 46 events in Las Vegas Stadium. And this was by Mitch Akers, but also Alan Snell at Las Vegas Sports Blog took a crack at this, and I mentioned his work on this before. But what it reads says, ever since the initial planning phase, when it was said Las Vegas Stadium could host 46 events annually, that number has been met with skepticism. And basically then Chris Wright, who is the facilities regional vice president for AEG, said at the stadium board meeting, Las Vegas Stadium board meeting, which was held in when this was written, July 18th, he said, it's a very special market. There's a lot of interest. Actually, he said that before this. He said that about this time. It's a very special market. There's a lot of interest when you look at event planning and the number of folks who are looking to get into the market. I feel very confident about that number. Okay. And Wright says he's been working with groups to gauge interest in being the first musical act to perform at the stadium. He said they'll have a good idea what the first year of events will look like early next year. Then he quotes, everyone's excited. I regularly speak with touring managers, touring entities, and large concert promoters in the market, and they're very excited to have an opportunity to come to the entertainment capital of the world in a brand new stadium. He said, we should be a regular touring destination for most artists on the stadium level. Aside from big name entertainers, other options include large-scale sporting events. He says there's another number of college events that they're looking at, and they'll be very active in the college sports market and the alternative sports market. This is all basically saying they've got nothing signed up right now. And they'll be looking to do a number of combat sports and, of course, the monster truck events and everything else. But it wasn't just 46 events, okay? And what's missing from this, and I think Alan got it right, this one didn't. But what's missing from this piece that I'm presenting to you is simply that that it wasn't like a wedding you're planning, right? Oh, you'll invite some friends, reserve a room, get married at Las Vegas Stadium and Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play. Well, that's only doable from the perspective of AEG and the Raiders if you happen to have 42,000 good friends, okay? Because the average size of each event was expected to be just north of 42,000. And during the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Committee meetings that were held between 2015 and closing in 2016, 2017, Bill Hornbuckle, now the president of MGM International, president, chief CEO, the chairman and CEO, at MGM International, questioned that number more than once. Are you sure? Are you sure that this can happen? Are you sure you can get this number of events? And a number of you may be wondering, and you should be wondering, why did they pick the magic number of 46 events to begin with? Well, it's because and I presented it here before, but I'm just going to say it in the interest of saving your eyeballs for this moment, okay? But it's because the original economic analysis that was presented gave a range of events, but basically told us that at 46 annual events a year over a 30-year period. Why 30 years? Because that's basically the year length or period of years that matches the length of the bond issue. It's a 30-year general obligation bond. I'm talking about the $750 million, really $747 million bond issue, right? But they had determined that they would need that many events on a regular basis to realize what's called the internal rate of return of 8.48%. What does that mean? It simply means that the amount of revenue taken in part from events would be great enough to offset the $750 million subsidy. Excuse me, not the $750 million subsidy, but the amount of money the developer was to spend. In that instance, the developer primarily was Sheldon Adelson and Las Vegas Sands Corporation. Although Las Vegas Sands made it clear that this was a personal expenditure of its founder, Sheldon Adelson, who brought Mark Davis to the Southern Valley in search of a future stadium home for the Silver and Black. Well, it was that way. That's how the 8.48 internal rate of return was arrived at. And the reason why Mark Davis had said, if you remember on March 26th of 2016, Mark Davis said, look, it's $750 million or we're walking. And then there was a meeting after that, 2 months after that, at the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee, which was convened by then Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval. There was another spreadsheet that consultants had presented, another proposal, another analysis, that dreamt of a world with a $550 million subsidy rather than $750 million. Raiders president Mark Bedane blew a gasket. And at that point made, for Mark, a really clear picture that the Raiders are going to walk away. It had to be $750 million. Why? So that Mr. Adelson could realize a return on his investment. That was the idea behind such a large subsidy, so that it would offset the amount of money needed by Adelson to make the stadium work, by his estimation. Okay. The other side of that equation was what the Nevada government and eventually the legislature was willing to give up. That's why in Senate Bill 1, there is this mark that says there's this rule that says we're not going to spend more than 39% of the project, or we're not going to get 39% of the project, and not more than that is going to come from public money. That's the idea. Keep that in mind whenever you watch the project in the future, okay? Because eventually it's going to take a lot more than that, given what's going on. That part of the, I think, of Senate Bill 1 needs to be rewritten, needs to be amended. But I digress. All right. With all of that and the growing economy, which up to 2017 was setting visitation records, threatened only by their giant resort fees that were charged at a number of hotels around the Strip, there was, an argument to be made for the possibility that they might get close, if not meet, the 46 event mark. And so here comes AEG basically saying, hey, you know what? Look, we can do this. We can make this happen. All right. We can make this happen. All right. AEG sees no problem. All right. No problem filling 46 events at Las Vegas Stadium. Okay. And if you think about that, according to this, they made the statement during the pandemic. Although I think this date is off. As I recall, it originally happened a little bit before, but I digress. My point is, they said they saw no problem in doing it. That was July. This is August. There are right now, other than the planned NFL professional games, no events in Allegiant Stadium. And let me put a finer point on it. Not only are there no events in Allegiant Stadium, there are no planned events. Let me emphasize this. There's not a plan to take the parking lot and make it into a movie theater, right? As it has been done in a number of places around the United States. There's no creative use plan that has been rolled out at this point to get events there. There needs to be. They need to think out of the box. But this is what's going on instead of that happening. Let me show you something, folks, with the matter of this 46 events. I am going to take this and I'm going to show you something. All right. Let's say AEG worldwide and then click on and do this, Las Vegas in our search. And then what do we have? Right here. Billboard. All right. Which in this article, this post reads, betting on live music's return as Las Vegas opens, the whole fan experience is being tested. This is July 20th. All right. And it talks about Sin City resuming business and blah, 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 right? Okay. It talked about the Garth Brooks tour that did not happen. Okay. This is only for Billboard pros, but you would say, ha, 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 you don't get to see what you want, the point you want to make, right? Well, not exactly. Here's why I show you this, okay? Because of this note. In November, AEG had plans to debut a new theater inside the freshly minted Virgin Hotel, but sources say that project is held until 2021. So AEG was going to, hey, roll out a new theater, which means what? A space for new events, okay? A space for new events. All right? A space for new events. Yeah, and in case you're wondering, stadiums can be modified to have smaller seating, more intimate, to attract an act that would perform normally in an 18,000 seat theater or a 3,600 seat theater. Now, keep this in mind as we go back, all right? We've got AEG PR Newswire, Mohegan Sun Casino. I've never heard of that. At Virgin Hotels, Las Vegas selects Beef-Fred USA Sports to operate sportsbook. That's great. That's great. But, look a little bit further into this, and what we find is that if you just go down here and find in this page AEG, and then click, you'll find the AEG is also mentioned here. And it reads, live venue, music and entertainment venue operated by AEG presents. Wow. Live Nation Entertainment, also AEG presents tour. All right. Canceled event. not Las Vegas Stadium. All right. What's the point here? And then here's the coup de grace. AEG worldwide resorts. Resorts World. All right. AEG presents to partner with Resorts World on 5,000 seat. Think about it. This is 5,000 seat. 5,000 seat. There it is. This is Resorts World. 5,000 seat facility. Okay. 5,000 seats. That's the planned Resorts World. Folks, that's just kind of down the way from Las Vegas Stadium. So think about it. With all of these other facilities trying to get events, how is it that Las Vegas Stadium can piece together events to create a 42,000 venue performance? How can they do that? Maybe they can't afford to do Las Vegas Stadium, but they can downsize their event and go to Resorts World. Point that I'm making is this is great for AEG, but it's not great for Mark Davis. That's an enormous problem. And then not only that, it causes this one, me, to ask another question. Hey, Sean, thank you for the belated birthday wish. Why 42,000 as opposed to being able to size the stadium for smaller events and then turn around the dynamic so that Allegiant Stadium is more competitive with the Resorts World facility, as well as other facilities like it, or T-Mobile for that matter. Oh, and then there's MSG Sphere. Wow. 18,000 seat facility, which when finished, it's pushed back because of the coronavirus, will remake entertainment in a way that you and I have never seen. You have doubts? Take a look at this. If you have never seen, okay? If you have never at all seen this, watch this. This is going to be something else. MSG Sphere. MSG Sphere. Images. And we take a look at what's expected. Some of you may have seen these before. I love this cutaway. Okay. Take a look at this cutaway. They call it the architectural marvel. Once again, this is billboard with the get. An architectural marvel. Okay. And let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of that. Boom. Okay. You see that cutaway? You'll be immersed into this place where you're surrounded by immersed in a digital experience. Can you do that at Raiders Stadium? Because if you can't, that place is going to be the hot ticket for an event. 18,000 seats. Okay. So if you're Taylor Swift, where do you go? Do you go to Allegiant Stadium or do you go to MSG Sphere? And do you know who is part developer of MSG Sphere? You have any idea? Shel Nettleson, partner with Madison Square Garden. And I contend he did that deliberately. It's like a friend of mine said that Las Vegas gets you a little bit pregnant. And what he meant by that is they always have this thing. I remember when he told me, he said, remember the roller coaster phase, Zenny? Like New York had a roller coaster, that other hotels and facilities had to have their versions of a roller coaster. And then all of a sudden you stopped seeing the roller coasters and the roller coasters weren't used. They were just sitting there. It's like that. Remember the monorail? They had to have the monorail, and everybody was hot for the monorail. And then the monorail lost its favor, and then people didn't want to get rid of it. And didn't want to pay for it, and all of that. He said it's like that. And then he gave other examples as well. And he predicted that sports would be the next casualty. That's right. That's right. So where does that leave Mark Davis? Does it leave him personally financially hurt? No. In fact, Mark Davis from this has fared better than ever in his life. But will the Raiders emerge from this intact? And that is the problem, because Davis can always sell out. But the Raiders themselves, different story. Some of you on social media have speculated that the Raiders own the stadium. The Raiders do not own Las Vegas Stadium. Las Vegas does not own it. Clark County owns it. But that doesn't mean the Raiders' landlord is actually Clark County. No, the Raiders' landlord is actually Bank of America. That's right. See, the idea was that the deal would be structured so the Raiders didn't have to pay essentially two rents. The $24 million alone for the B of A loan was enough. So the way Mark Arnold, their contracts attorney, wrote the documents was such that there was no rent due per se. But if the Raiders didn't pay on the loan to Bank of America could claim default on the leasehold and take over the leasehold and ask the Raiders to leave. Now, do not think for a moment that's what I'm saying will happen. It won't. Bank of America has a powerfully great interest in maintaining its relationship with the National Football League. To even suggest such an action would wreck its relationship for decades with the NFL. So it wouldn't be wise for Bank of America to even make that kind of noise right now. Bank of America, I think, would just sort of say, look, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We'll work with you. Maybe they'll look out the terms. Maybe they'll ask for extra luxury boxes. They'll figure out something, some combination of ways to survive the relationship through this pandemic and extend to the long term. That's what Bank of America will do. But it's quite likely that the Raiders would be in part or in total acquired by someone or someone else. The Fertitta brothers, doubtful. Mr. Adelson and his family, quite likely, because they've always been sitting right there in the hunt for this. All right. Now, the Raiders returning to Oakland, you can forget that. That's not happening. The NFL will return to Oakland, but it will be with a new team, and I'm not saying an existing team either, although it could happen. But that's right now beside the point. Oakland will get another NFL team, either by expansion or relocation. I repeat, Oakland will get another NFL team. There are too many owners, too many people who see the collective wealth of the San Francisco Bay Area and understand that one team isn't enough. Nothing against the Niners, okay? So let me get your comments right here and your questions, and I'll take them. And as I do, I will also basically change scenery so you're not necessarily looking at my face the entire time only. But how about the beautiful nighttime view of the stadium, which is right here, okay? And so with that, Muhammad says, hello you. Manny Flo says, I don't understand. What is it that you don't understand? ML Scott says, hey everyone. Hey ML, how you doing? Juan Ramirez says, happy evening family. Hope everyone's well. Back at you. Muhammad says time moved back to Oakland. And Roland Dub says, good evening, everyone. Hello. The guy says hi. Muhammad says, as much as COVID has an impact, I feel there's behind the scenes influence that is shifting events away from Las Vegas Stadium. And Muhammad, I'm glad you made that point. And I will say, yeah, I have for a long time believed this. And I believed that whatever the full details are of, as I say, what went down between Mark Davis and Sheldon Adelson, I believe that being left out of the lease really rankled Mr. Adelson to a point where he thought, you know what, I will partner with MSG. And I'm not saying that he wasn't going to do that anyway. But what are you going to choose? I mean, look, let's assume that these events really happened the way Adelson thought. First of all, hey, they're not mentioned in the Raiders lease as getting a cut. Okay. Now, I thought it was a cover story to get them out of there and thereby, I mean, in public view, right? And thereby say to the NFL owners, okay, there's no gambler owner involved. You can approve the deal. All right. They have a nice cover story. The question is, how does Adelson come back in, right, once that's done? And it put out, says, you know, I'm not doing business here. And Mr. Adelson is known as a person who likes to do a deal by a handshake and likes to turn around and feel that he can trust you. Okay, fine. So let's say that actually happened. If you're in that position, you're Adelson, and you spent maybe $100 million trying to get the Raiders in the Las Vegas, you believe that the Raiders building a stadium is good for Las Vegas, given the structural changes in the economy that threaten the casino industry as it is operated and as we're seeing being played out right now. All right. You're thinking, hey, how else can I hope to recoup my investment? So perhaps I invest in something that could be a kind of a poison pill, right, against the Raiders facility. All right. Something that weakens the Raiders facility in such a way that eventually Davis comes back to Adelson or has to sell. I'm not saying there's any hard evidence other than circumstantial that he's trying to do that, but the circumstances do lean in that favor. Okay? The question is, how does Mark Davis in this save himself? What does Mark Davis do to make sure that this facility and the Raiders and himself come out whole so that he doesn't feel like he was punked? Well, I think his best option on his own is to have his own political posse and go to the president and try and engineer for that bailout the president originally asked for. Because, yeah, he had and go and do so with Adelson. Wouldn't do so, okay? I was about to say do so with Adelson, but that's hard because you're basically going against the guy that's friend of Trump in Las Vegas, and you're trying to do something essentially behind his back. That's a hard go. So there has to be some type of way to do it that gets Davis what he wants without getting him into trouble at the same time. And how you do that is, well, you have to have other operatives working on your behalf that speak for you without you being in the room, but they're not Adelson. And who those people are, I have some ideas I'd rather not say here, but that's how he has to play it. Yeah, Mark has to go political slick. That's what he's got to do. Now, Mark Bodane is the kind of person who would be into that. Okay? Mark Bodane is the kind of person who would be into that. All right? Mark would be delighted behind the scenes to engineer something that puts them out on top, because right now they don't have the advantage. You would say, you might point to the governor, Sisolak, but he's a Democrat, okay? There are a number of Republicans in Las Vegas, the Goodmans. There are a number of people who can help. There are a number of Democrats who can help as well. I'm not meaning to put down the governor, but what I'm saying is that Mark has to approach this as a bipartisan effort. It has to be connected to an overall effort that represents the properties that are immediately around the stadium. Because even though Mark Davis doesn't own Las Vegas Stadium or Allegiant Stadium, he does own the revenue stream coming into it. And therefore, he has a vital interest in protecting it, which also happens to benefit others. But for AEG to be, basically doing what it's doing, I mean, they're all but helping Adelson, is a question. I would have engineered the AEG deal in such a way that if AEG got a deal somewhere else in Vegas, the Raiders got a cut. Otherwise, they'd get no deal at the stadium. That's how I would have played it. Because I don't want AEG around me, grabbing up these events that are maybe smaller, but still very much lucrative for my facility. I mean, where do you stop? You say 3,600 is too small, 5,000, 18,000. Where do you stop? For me, you think of the stadium and have a configuration so that I can have more than one 6,000 seat event at the same time, maybe interrelated. You have to be creative. But where they're at now is to, I think that they have to put 42,000 people in the stadium. And the only marker is what Adelson spent. I think they need to revise that whole spreadsheet, because they need more public money, which is going to vastly change the IRR anyway. And it's more favorable because there's more public money in the deal. Why? Because of the coronavirus. The coronavirus has busted that spreadsheet, all right? But that's the spreadsheet that got us here. In other words, that's where the internal rate of returns. That's why we're here. That's why the $750 million subsidy exists. Okay? Again, note, they didn't want to come down to $550 million, even though the revenue stream from tax rates more favorably pointed to a $550 million subsidy. Why? Because at that level, you could promise a debt coverage ratio of 2-to-1 rather than at 1.5-to-1. You're sweating bullets thinking, gee, am I going to have enough money to pay this, right? Right now, because it's quite obvious that the deals from that standpoint has problems, is in trouble. Because Clark County, look, once the debt service reserve runs out, and it's going to, the public bond issue, I'm not talking Bank of America now, this is the public bond issue, is going to, if you will, turn mathematically, or not mathematically, but organizationally, and then mathematically, and in terms of agreement, turn to the Clark County General Fund. Why? Because it is a general obligation bond, as I've said before. It is not a lease revenue bond. A lease revenue bond says, hey, look, if the stream is not adequate, then I restructure the bond. This one says, if the stream isn't bringing me enough money, I can dig in and get it from the taxpayer immediately. It's a variation on the lease revenue bond that was structured for the original Raiders deal. That was a lease revenue bond, but it had a proviso. It said, hey, look, if that PSL money is not there, both the city and the county have to pay. That was written in stone. So for all practical purposes, even though it wasn't a lease revenue bond, it sort of behaved like one. Why? Because it wound up dipping into the general funds of both the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. That's why. All right. So let me continue with your comments here. Sean Watts says, happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that. Almost your birthday. Hey, another Leo. Happy birthday to you. Roland Dubs. Happy birthday to both of you. Thank you, sir, very much. John Cordova says, how long before Mark Davis defaults on his loan? I talked about the loan issue. It's not his loan. It's Stagco. It's the Raiders. So it's not his. So don't make the mistake of assuming that. This is a very good lesson to learn, okay? You start a corporation for legal protection to have a separate entity to do things that you alone are not capable of doing. That's the intent in the Raiders case. That's the intent with any startups case. That's the intent with startups that are, corporations like Zenny 62 Media. We're designed to be an investment vehicle, but it's a separate entity. So to say, what does Mark Davis have to pay is to show you don't understand it. He is the manager. He's the boss. But the future of the organization is separate for all practical purposes from him. Okay? There's a lot of ways he can personally square that circle, if you will. Sales is one of them, all right? So I know you know Mark. What do you think Al would have done? Do I think Al Davis would have done the move? No, I don't. Because I believe that Mr. Davis Sr., Al, would have, first of all, thought, you know what? Here's the thing. I know that Mark says otherwise, and Mark knows his father. But my thought is that, look, there was no compelling reason for the Raiders to leave Oakland. Mark didn't want to be in Oakland. Mark felt that there were other places where he could get the deal done better and faster. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The city and the county did everything that they could. Well, not everything. Did a lot in their capacity to prove him right. However, if he had done what A's president Dave Cavall is doing right now, and sticking in there and forming a deal and figuring out a way to get it done, Mark Davis would have had the kind of deal that the Athletics are enjoying. And regardless of your thoughts about whether or not Howard Terminal is the desirable place for the A's to be, the simple fact of the matter is that, by the way, have a look at this, folks. The simple fact of the matter is, just let you might want to see that, is going in and out. The simple fact of the matter is that if and when the rate of growth in assessed value continues or resumes, and there are ways to engineer its resumption via the California legislature, the Athletics will enjoy a $1 billion subsidy throw-off from a modest 4% rate of growth in assessed value in a $2 billion base year assessed value at Jack London Square. And when you consider that the A's will own the stadium may be clocking at $1.5 billion. Then the buildings behind it are $500 million. They already have that, and that's without including any other property in a tax increment financing zone around the stadium. So for those of you who might think that's a hard number to reach, we're talking about the Bay Area. It's an easy number to reach, okay? Very easy. Mark Davis would have enjoyed the luxury of such a deal, as would Ronnie Lott. That's why I was trying to explain to Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, I was trying to explain to Ronnie to just give the land to the NFL and let them kind of buy it back, and therefore they own it. And he goes, why do I want to do that? Because the other scenario I saw, the city wanted to own the land. Okay? What I was trying to explain to Ronnie Lott is, hey, look, use your tax increment financing to assist you, but whatever. Ronnie, still love you. Okay, now, you get to your, nobody likes the whiners. Yeah, but you know what? It's important to whine. Come on, Sean, squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? But then I realized, what are you referring to anyway? Johnny Cordova, he says, I wonder what the chances are the Adelson new owners would change the name and colors to make the team more, quote, Vegas. None. They're the Oakland Raiders. Why would, I mean, let me take that on because I've seen that mentioned before, okay? Why would anybody want to rid themselves, essentially, of a name that has such history, that has such a following? Look, I'm here in Georgia. There are people around here wearing Raider flags and everything, and they're not even Raider fans, but they're using the image, right? Is that a right thing? That's another subject for another time. I'm only pointing out a fact. There's a coolness in the Raider brand. Look, I'm wearing black, okay? There's a coolness in it. I mean, should Las Vegas have had its own brand? Initially, I thought so. Like, look at the Golden Knights, okay? But it's unreasonable, in my opinion, to believe that you're going to have more success with a brand new brand and just quite literally discard the worldwide love for the Raiders. That's not playing with a full deck, in my opinion. I don't mean to be insulting. I'm just saying, okay? All right? Porter says it's built. I don't know what your point is. Okay, it's built. What does that mean? The Raider says Mark will have to sell. Mark will have to sell. He won't be able to fill the required seats to make a profit to pay back the loan. So either he moves back to Oakland or sells the team or moves again. And look, let me put it this way. If Mark Davis wanted to become involved in a new NFL team, great. But I think it is dangerous to assume that as it is right now, Mark Davis would violate the now active non-relocation agreement to go back to Oakland. Now, some of you might be laughing and rightfully reminding me of the Raiders' history. I get that, okay? But the monetary throw-off, the contractual obligations, and the relationships that are being built now are such that you can't just cut them. And I don't recommend anyone in business does that at any level of life. It is the wrong thing to do. And when you're in a culture like Las Vegas, which is, and I've said this before, we have to save Las Vegas to save America. If we don't get it right economically in Las Vegas, and right now we're not, America's future is screwed. You understand what I'm saying? I've said it before. I'll say it again. I want to emphasize, we must save Las Vegas. The Bay Area, Oakland's within a gigantic economic engine that runs California. It will be fine. But I am very concerned about Las Vegas. People are talking about how Californians are leaving California and coming to Las Vegas. That may be of some help. But coming to Las Vegas is one thing. Bringing your industrial complex is quite another. All right. And right now, Nevada is not sitting on enough money in coffers to be able to make a move easier for a company by giving it a subsidy. This is not that time. It would have to go, once again, to the Trump administration, which has, at this point, it's fair to say, not come through on its promise to help the country. Everyone should be vitally concerned about it, because what people don't understand is how this economy's legs have been just cut off from it. All right, this is not a recession. All right, this is a kneecapping. Our economy is being kneecapped. Now, some of you would say, well, it's being kneecapped because of policies like shelter in place. But what's the alternative? Losing life? You know, Trump scared me today when he talked about basically young people being, more immune to the disease and like basically saying it's okay for a few people to go away. Says you, pal. I mean, I can't believe we have a president of the United States who actually would say that. All right? But that's where we're at right now. This is nutso stuff. And in the middle, everybody's got to carve out their way of surviving it collectively. Okay? Collectively. So getting back to what his father would have done, I think his father would have stayed in Oakland. I think his father would have gotten the deal that he wanted. But I don't think his father was his father is nostalgic. Mark is younger. You know, he travels, he sees a different type of future. He's willing to wheel and deal and gamble, literally, and take chances. Okay. And look, Mark Davis is a smart guy. He created the Raider image. A number of people forget that. Okay. I don't. I had Charlie Santana Jr. Awesome guy. I just talked to him last week. Love Charlie. Zenny, how you doing, pal? Where are you getting your ass down here? That's if you're watching this and you know Charlie Santana Jr., you know what I'm talking about. All right. He's a great guy. Anyway, he and I were talking about that. We actually did a video about that, the Raiders game, a couple years ago. You can find it here on Zenny62. Just type Raider image, Zenny62. You'll see the video. Anyway, got to tear up when I think of Charlie. Charlie's one of the greats. He's the one actually that introduced me to John Gruden. There is a photograph of us that goes way back. It's like, way back. It's like, I'm gonna just have a little fun just for a moment, okay? See if I can dig this photograph up of Gruden and myself. This goes way back to 1998 when I was representing the mayor of Oakland, and John was here. I just found it. Okay, there's a guy named Jeff Gromja. Here it is. Okay, and if I can call it up, and I believe I just found it here, and it's coming up in a second. Bear with me, because it's on Pinterest, which is a little slow, right? And see if I can get it to come up here. There it is. Okay, cool. Whoops. Oh, I got it. There it is. All right, now let me go back to StreamYard here, and I've got the one image. Let me take that image and put that image down and bring this other image up. And when you know StreamYard is a little slow. Oh, here we go. Share screen. So I push the button. And where are we? Right here. Boom. Ta-da! There it is. Let me give you a full one, all right? 1998, Raiders suite holder party. Charlie Santana Jr. is the guy wearing the Raider polo shirt on my extreme right. I'm wearing cashmere coat, black tie, white shirt. Obviously, Gruden. Jeff Gromja, he was Mike Tyson's cut doctor. Okay, Mike Tyson's duck. Mike Tyson's cut doctor. All right, boy, we had the greatest time. That was where 1998. That is where I met John Gruden. Cool photo, huh? So anyway, that was Charlie Santana, about as fine a friend as you'll ever have in your life. I'm telling you, okay? Yeah, with the stash. I know. The stash in the hair, right? Yeah, I know. Oh boy, those were the days. those were the days. Thanks for pointing that out, Roland Dubs. So let me get back to your comments. I think I missed. Watson says something about the Niners. Carlos says not a lot of Raider fans in Vegas. I believe I missed something, not intentionally. Let me make sure. Let me get rid of some weight here, if you will, some file weight, so I can more easily call up your comments. Trying to get rid of this. That page is gone. Then I'll get rid of this other page. All right, that's gone, and this one's gone from Billboard. All right, and we were left with that one's gone. I had a lot of billboard up, and I had the spreadsheet, but I figured, I'm not gonna make your eyes glaze through all that. So okay, so we got all that gone, right? And all right, so we got all that gone. So now I can go and get your comments, I believe. And oh, here we go. Yeah. All right, I get it. Okay. I got that one. And he says the interest will kick in sooner or later. That's true. We're talking about the bond, the line of credit interest, right? Yeah. I believe the Raiders. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Niners. And then he says not a lot of Raider fans in Vegas. Las Vegas Dark Knights. That has a nice ring to it. Do you even think Raiders can sell out the season in Vegas with not many Vegas fans, even if no coronavirus? I think, Nikhil, it's a good question. What I have found based on the sports simulations I built while I was running sports business simulations, we were in 40 high schools and colleges around the world. Actually, to put a finer point on, we're actually in 36 colleges and 4 high schools, but at any rate, around the world, including London. But there tends to be a 3-year novelty period for new stadiums. Within that 3 years, they can do no wrong. Sellouts are common, but after that, who comes to the games depends on region and won-loss record. There's some areas of the country, like for example, New York or Denver, where sellouts are so common. If you take a look at the NFL's historic records on attendance, the Eastern Seaboard, and for some strange reason I haven't figured out, Colorado and then Kansas City, they really just pop up. Denver more so. All right. But then the further west you get, it gets okay. Las Vegas is unproven. All right. So I'm going to give it 3 years where it's going to do well. After that, you got to start looking at the won-loss record. Now, what the facility has going for it is that Las Vegas has historically been a tourist destination. The problem is caused by technological forces that have been pushed forward more by the pandemic. In other words, now we're all used to staying at home and doing virtual visits, right? That's a danger. That's a danger to that facility. And that's why a facility like MSG Sphere is that much more valuable, because if you're going to a place Las Vegas, you're going to see something you can't easily see on television. The NFL games are more like a studio. So there has to be something more to bring the people in the seats post-pandemic. You got to win. Yes. As Mark Davis' father would remind you, but you got to have something extra. I remember when I was at the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting 3 years ago, I was also there during CES. I went during CES. I went to the Stadium Authority meeting. It was a Thursday. Earlier that week, I saw walking through the Sands Expo a woman with this cool kind of change of color outfit. It was wild. Okay. In fact, maybe I can find it here while I'm talking to you. It was really wild because it's worth, it's one of these things where I say, you got to see it. All right. And I'm going to my YouTube channel, see if I can call it up right now. And it was, now I've got to struggle with whether or not I remember the name of the title. CES, Las Vegas, maybe address. Yes, I found it. Hey, this is it, folks. Hold on a second. Let me, this is now. I want to show you this because when you see it, you're gonna see. Yeah, I see what Zinni's thinking, right? Okay, watch this because I showed this to Badane at the stadium meeting, right? Okay, watch this. This is as they say going to be really cool. And you say yeah, but then yeah, right. Bam. Okay. Watch. Let me bring it full screen. Watch this. You see? Raider colors, right? Right? And she just happened to appear. Okay. It's called Living Wall. Electronic.
Basically, it's a electric paper, so it's a printable technology.
How thin is the paper?
It's very thin.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
This is just a prototype that we're working on becoming thinner and more malleable as well.
Your invention?
Pardon?
Your invention?
Fashionable technology.
Yeah, but I mean, when is it? I mean, did you create it? Is it your?
Oh, I did not know.
When is it going to be sold for on the market? Is it a prototype?
It's just I don't know.
Okay, when
We're
sold
not
on the market, what can I buy? What can someone?
You can edit that.
Entertainment, advertisement.
Yeah.
It's good choosing so any two colors.
When can I use it? When can it be? Can I buy it?
Yes, this is the prototype. Probably within 1 year.
1 year. Okay.
We will provide this kind of so more the market models.
How does it? You're the inventor?
Yeah.
You invent this?
Yes.
I'm Zen Abraham. Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Yeah, okay.
This is incredible.
Thank you very much.
This is incredible. This is something else. Did you win an award for this? Did you win like an innovation award or anything?
Yes. Fashion tech.
Fashion tech award. Wow, this is incredible.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. Folks, I'm blown away. You gotta basically keep an eye out for this tech. This is world changing. DNP. Living Wall. Thank you. Was there
Okay, so folks, can you imagine? Think about what you just saw there. Okay, what I just showed you. Think about what I just showed you, and think about that at the Raiders game, and you use that tech as part of a contest. So, a concierge, because you can make that. It doesn't have to be a dress. It could be a coat that's worn by a person, right? Okay, and maybe you have to find the coat and it has a certain code or a certain number on it at a certain time, you win a prize. Those are things you can't do anywhere but being there. Okay? That's the kind of tech that's available for use, but you have to think out of the box and do that kind of activity to make the dollar more worthwhile to spend today. That's what I was after when I showed Bedane. And Mark was looking at it, he just kind of froze like this. And I said, what do you think? I have no idea what he thought because he just kind of went. All right. But wow. Okay. Wow. All right. So Mira says the high-speed rail shows complete incompetence by our government leaders in California. Hopefully we can send them to jail. Martin Ramirez actually worked on high-speed rail. I understand and believe in its promise, but I also sympathize with you regarding its cost problems. That's another program I could talk hour plus about high-speed rail, how working for Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris, I should have Elihu on talk about it, tried to get high-speed rail for Oakland, the kind of hidden costs that we found in the presentation that favored the San Francisco side over the Oakland side. Just getting started. Okay, but I digress. He said, do you believe the NFL draft can be skipped next year as the potential college football season is still not certain of happening? I'm going to leave that for Bill Carroll, who is my fellow NFL draft expert. We're going to be on tomorrow to address that one. Let's see here. I think I got them. We got new comments here. He says, 2 questions. What are your thoughts on the lawsuit in October? You mean the Raiders lawsuit? Well, if you're talking about the Raiders breach of contract lawsuit with respect to the city of Oakland, it never lost its legs at all. And it still has a great deal of merit. I felt that the lawsuit should have been not an antitrust one, but I was under the impression they're going to follow St. Louis from the beginning, but they didn't. I'm not as hopeful. Well, the way they're doing it, if they follow St. Louis, there would be a victory. I will tell you that. If they follow St. Louis, that remains to be seen. Am I hopeful for it or anything, or is any kind of relief? In other words, let me put it this way. The people who are pushing it, some believe that it's a key to get the name and colors and all that. That's not happening. All right. Because the only way they would get a win big enough to get that was through antitrust, where they would get treble damages. That was the idea, but that was taken away. It's hard to make a judge, and I understand where counsel was going with this, but there's a level of esoteric that is just really difficult, and it has been proven to be difficult to expect any success in court, and that goes all the way back to 1982. All right. So if you're going to go with standard breach of contract, like what St. Louis is doing, St. Louis is not dreaming of name and colors, as I understand it. And matter of fact, I need to have people with St. Louis and journalists who are writing about that back on to find out where that is. But I don't believe they're dreaming of a situation where they wind up owning the Rams. I think they're dreaming of a situation where the Rams are damaged significantly. But look, when you're talking about a stadium that's worth $10 billion, I mean, how much hurt is that really going to be? Oh, hey, why don't you come to the games? Have this, I mean, what is that? What is that going to look like? I don't know. I think at some point you need to work on building your economy and building your ability to build your own, and really re-examine right now what sports for the future is going to look like. That's the big question. It's one thing to say we want X, right? But in the St. Louis case, in the Oakland case, it's different because you're talking about, unlike St. Louis, you're talking about a Bay Area that has the richest corporations in the world, and even today still incredible land values, and is the modern Detroit of the United States, such that it can easily sustain a second NFL football team at a high marquee level. All right. Does St. Louis have the same economic power? No. That's the cold truth. Now, some stats. Thanks. Nice. Yeah, talking about the Gruden thing. Yeah. I wonder if Carol Davis had any say so in moving to Davis. She supports her son. 2 questions. 1, what are your thoughts on the lawsuit? Any chance Oakland can win the case and keep the name Raiders? Do you see a full season this year with players catching the virus? Okay. My thoughts on the lawsuit, I believe I just expressed. Oakland can win the case, but look, keep the name Raiders. No, you can forget that. That is not happening. And you have to remember something. Again, the reason why the antitrust approach was used was because if you win that, you get a crack at treble damages. That would have gotten you to a $2 billion level theoretically, or 1.8 billion arguably. Okay, but now you don't have that. So, and if anyone wants to correct me, as I understood it, they weren't dropping the whole antitrust argument. It was just breach of contract. But if not, they're going to try again. Well, then, you know what? I'll say this. We'll see. Again, even if, let's say that in the wildest dreams they were to win, okay? And the judge says, Judgment in favor, 1 billion, 2 billion. All right. That's not going to equal the Raiders returning to Oakland. There would be too many economic interests that control the Las Vegas Strip that would fight it. You are talking about an instrument for the survival of Las Vegas. Why do you think, look at this. Why do you think you have, let's not get this, confused here. Why do you think that right now, and this is Bear's looking at, you have this lit up right now that the Raiders theoretically are paying out of pocket for, but I hope they're getting help for paying for, given the lack of, an income stream from events coming in the near future, right? Okay. You're looking at Las Vegas crown jewel. Do you really honestly think they're not going to fight to keep it? And when I mean it, I don't mean the building itself. I mean the Raiders too. They built that first for the UNLV, but then they recast it to get an NFL team. If you go back and read the documents, just type Las Vegas Stadium PDF 2013 UNLV, right? Look at the original Convention Sports and Leisure analysis reports that were advanced by great people like Guy Hobbs of Hobbs-Ong, public finance in Las Vegas. All right. Guy Hobbs deserves a medal for his behind the scenes work over the years in laying the financial groundwork for the bond issue that created the monetary engine by which they could begin to discuss what eventually became a $750 million subsidy. Guy's an awesome man. Okay. Awesome to talk to. I still owe him dinner. All right. So that guy I haven't forgotten. Okay. So point that I'm making is those are the interests you would be fighting. And they, as you can see, look, they had a political power line to get this going. They had Harry Reid involved. They had everybody involved in this thing. They had made countless number of deals with part-time Nevada legislators who have their own businesses, okay, and were looking to help out themselves as well as everybody else, okay. They just basically barely got it over the goal line because of that. If you remember that gigantic $900 million Nevada Department of Transportation study that almost sunk the whole thing. All right. So I've always been a big fan of Las Vegas, but what I don't like, and I've covered CES for now 10, 11 years, what I didn't like was a situation where I just didn't like the situation. Okay. People, you hate Las Vegas, you hate the Raiders. It's not hate at all. The situation, awful. But right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so we have some more dire concerns to look at. Among them, the financial health of the Raiders and the National Football League in the future. The president needs to come through. The Congress needs to come through. We need a $4 trillion bailout package on top of what we've already spent. That would give us $6 trillion, right? We'd be headed in the right direction. These folks, they act like it's, a common Sunday. Jeez, it's not. Call your Congress people, folks. Small business protection, unemployment extension, large business assistance, including the hospitality industry and the sports industry among them, and the restaurant industry as promised. Our economy has been kneecapped by a virus, and it doesn't seem that there is a rush to fix it. That should concern everybody watching this. And with that, I bid everybody good night. See you tomorrow. Bill Carroll and I are going to talk about college football, and in the middle of all this. Thanks for your questions, by the way. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for the comments on the stash. It ain't coming back. I like this look better. I'm feeling better with this. This is like, whatever. All right. I'll see you all later. But show that, you know what? If you see that photograph, get a clip of that and just pass it around the internet. Say, hey, Gruden, you see this? I'll see you later. Thanks, everybody.